Good. So, welcome everybody. I see that I'm also live on YouTube. So what do we have today after hours is earnings for this company called SMBI or SWBI, Smith & Wesson Brands. Now, I have never heard of this company, right? But I am actually quite interested because I was doing some research earlier today about this. I was like, okay, this has earnings then today. And before I continue, I gotta make sure I share my screen here in the Discord as well. Farouk, nice new profile picture. What's up? Hope you're having a nice day, nice week. Good. So this is where we're at. SWBI. This has its earnings today, and we're going to look at the lower time frames. Like I said, I have never ever seen this equity. I have never seen this sticker, but I am very interested. So every time that there's earnings and I see an equity that does interest me, I put it on my watch list, and I tend to then play it in the next couple of weeks. Multiple interesting things here for SWBI. One, this has been actually trading for a very long period of time, and this is in a structural uptrend that is interesting. This has higher highs and higher lows on a monthly time frame. That's bullish. What I also like about this is that it is a dividend company. So I will go, of course, because that is what everybody is here for. I will go to the extended trading hours and kind of see if we're going to see some price action here after hours. But I also just want to emphasize the nice structure of this on the higher time frame. So a couple of things that I immediately want to do for SWBI is, for example, put my levels in. So 13.86 is going to be an important level for me. Basically, if price gets there, gets below, and then holds, like something like this is what I would like to see on a chart like this. Get down, pick up the liquidity at 13.86, make another higher low, and then slowly but surely, if we zoom out, the target can be the all-time high. I'm not saying we get there immediately, but over time, this is clearly showing higher lows and higher highs. So I'm very interested in this. I don't know what they do. I am not interested in looking at the earnings results, but I am interested in looking at price action and then, of course, giving you all levels that I think are really worthwhile to play from, such as 13.86. Now we will go to the 5-minute time frame and kind of see if we get some volatility here going. So immediate gap up to 1675. It's not really that important, so I want to have this level marked out. And let's see, just looking back in time a little bit. We had an important, so when I'm zooming out a little bit in time, something like this, right? It's interesting to me that swing point from all the way back there in 2007, right? If we zoom out a little bit, swing point here, we got above that once, flipped that level into resistance here, and now we're back at that level. So I either want to see us come back down and test 1386 into support, then creep up, or I would like to gain this 17.5 level, which we will need to see at the very least a 4-hour candle close above 1751. So, but I want to keep it super simple, right? So we are either going to get above that level and flip it into support, or we're going to look here. At least I am going to look here for another higher low and then creeping up. So I have a couple of tickers for you guys today, but this is one thing that now at this point has its earnings release. And again, I don't like the idea of just starting to do random things here after hours after we've been doing earnings for weeks and weeks on ends, especially if things have earnings that are very interesting. So I was looking at this as well. Side note that this is also a dividend company, so it is a dividend paying thing. If I hover over that, looks like 12 cents a share. I mean, it's not much, but it is a dividend. So I very much want to be interested. Well, I very much want to see here if we're going to see a big nuke down into this level or if we can get above that level. So I will put my alert on 1751. and I want to know if we're going to get above that. So I am not going to breakout trade this, but what I will specifically look at is a 4-hour candlestick that closes above 1751 during regular trading hours. And then I'm going to put a limit order at 1751 to get picked up before basically going higher. And it looks like we're coming to 1751 here, but like I said, I want a 4-hour candle closure above that level during regular trading hours. Now, why am I here then looking at low time frame volatility, you might ask? Well, very simple, because one, I want to be aware of where this is going to gap up tomorrow, and two, it's never been on my watch list, so I'm taking my time here to look at it with you guys as well. So 1751, that's an important level, and then all the way back down here at 1386. I am not saying that those are the only two relevant levels in the market, but what I am saying is that these are the only two levels that I am personally willing to play from, right? Just gonna double check if I'm still on my StreamYard. So looks like we are on StreamYard, and we're having about 70 viewers so far. That's fine. SWBI, Smith & Wesson brands, that's the first thing that I wanted to go over. So this is also earnings calendar is very, very well, it's not as crowded these days, but nonetheless, I'm here to find some gems in the rough, which I think this sticker, to me, it looks like a gem in the rough, right? So we'll keep this, and we'll keep an eye on this. Want to know where this is going to open up tomorrow, and then play accordingly from these levels that I've just marked out. So I'll make them bigger. 1386 support, 1751 resistance, and the play for me is getting below 1386, closing a 4-hour candle back above that level during regular trading hours. That's a long trigger, or closing a 4-hour candlestick above 1751 during regular trading hours, and then putting a limit long order at 1751, and then playing it up. I'm not going to give targets and invalidations. If you want those, then Penny Boys premium section, and more specifically coaching by Jay, is where you would want to head to. I'm very happy, honestly speaking, I'm very happy that I didn't just say, well, it's just one company here after close that has its earnings. Let me just go to your Apple and Meta and whatever and kind of talk about over these, because those aren't really gems in the rough, right? Those aren't really like hidden gems, but to me, at least, SWBI, I've never heard of it before. So I'm very happy to now be aware of that. I'm not interested in trading after hours volatility, like I said, but I explained the play based on the 4-hour time frame. So that is the best I'll do for now. I'll keep this on my chart. So if it has drastic price action, we can follow along. That might happen because they do have their earnings release. But I'll also go over some other things here. So this is supposed to be a short, sweet stream, maximum half an hour of overgoing like some of my favorite tickers. But first and foremost, I wanted to cover the earnings part. Let's see in the chat. No, Farouk. An hour candle during normal trading hours indicates support. Did I understand this correctly? No. Well, yeah, it depends. So no. 4-hour candle. A 4-hour candle during normal trading hours is what I want to see, but it's either a 4-hour close above this level. If we are going to close a 4-hour above this level, it's not really showing me support here. At that point, it's showing me a breakout. But Farouk, I'm not going to go in depth over this. As long as you have not really followed my coaching, it's impossible for you to understand. And you know where to go to get that, right? Good. But that is what a lot of my system is based around. Not just 4-hour candlesticks, but the same kind of structure, the same kind of structuring of my trades. Now I'm going to keep that on. Let's go to the 5-minute here and see. So again, if you're just breakout trading something after the close, I mean, it goes to 18, but that is very much an important level, right? There's a reason why we're wicking above it and then showing something like this. Now, I'll make this smaller. And I want to go over another chart as well, which is not the one here. This is a crypto. It also is not a chart that has earnings today, but they did have earnings a while back. It's basically the PACOM chart. So PACOM is a ticker that I have made a post about a couple of weeks ago in the dividend channel. It's also just like SWBI. It's a dividend company. And I've recently basically taken my first exposure to this. And if I go to the dividends channel, if I can find it, it's even for the analysts not easy to navigate the Discord, let me tell you. Let's see. Can't really, yeah. So for this particular company, right? So this had its earnings a while back at the beginning of May. And if we zoom out a little bit, BACOM is a company that basically put in an all-time high also in 2021. So that is very, very typical. That is what you see on a lot of crypto and a lot of the market, especially tech and financial sector, basically topping out in 2021. Now, a lot of companies have actually made it back to their all-time high of 2021. Bitcoin is obviously not a company, but it is also something that put in a top in November of 2021 and has by now already made its way back to the all-time high. Now, BACOM clearly hasn't, but it doesn't mean that this isn't interesting to me. So basically what I've done after earnings in May, after seeing that this was down significantly from the all-time high at 558, I basically got a first exposure to this around 170. That was my first buy-in, basically planting that in my dividend portfolio, collecting dividends. I'm going to average down. I will tell you where. And in the bigger picture, I'm looking back at the highs. It's very simple. Now, this company has got a lot of FUD around it recently because the CEO has essentially been selling some of his shares. And I really want to emphasize the fact that it is some of his shares. So I don't have the exact numbers but from what I have seen, around $500,000 worth of PACOM shares were sold by the CEO. And that has, well, kind of instigated some panic, if you will. Now, the caveat is that the man still holds multiple million dollars worth of PACOM shares. So the whole idea that, well, the PACOM CEO is selling their shares and they don't believe in this company anymore is quite false. In fact, that CEO has gotten trust foundations and investment vehicles for his children in this company. So it's basically just some normal profit taking on his part. I previously got my first allocation in this at 170.89. So if we go back, again, I am here to show you real life, right? I'm not here to show you, oh, you enter something and it only straight up goes to the moon. I'm here to show that that is one possibility, but another possibility, right? We had earnings, we came down. This 170.89 is where I got my first purchase of PACOM. So not at the highs, after earnings somewhere here. And I'm fine with averaging down on this company. Now, I'm not fine with just buying randomly everywhere just to buy more. So if I'm going to average down, I really want to make sure that my average entry goes down significantly as well, which is also the whole point. If I'm building a dividend position in a long-term portfolio, I'm not shooting all my clips at once. If I do that, right, say for example at 170.89, I get my first allocation, I go all in, and now I'm underwater 17-18% with no money left to basically fix this or to trade myself into a better spot. Now, like I said, this company to me is very, very interesting. The sector to me is very, very interesting. And I'll just give this another color. That is my first average entry, my first buy. And I'm basically here to tell you guys that if this goes way lower still, 107.5 is going to be a key level for me to basically add more. So not just immediately here, but when we go down lower, basically 107.5. So a lot of these companies, if it does something like this, if BACOM goes back up, tests my entry back into support and does this, obviously that's fine. And in that case, I will be playing the uptrend and I'll basically look to add to my position on higher lows. But if we do something like this, then that 107.5 level to me is an excellent level to essentially add to my long-term dividend portfolio for BACOM. And again, none of this is financial advice. I'm not telling you what to do. This is primarily just, again, this does not have its earnings right now, but this is something that had its earnings recently that I did make a post about. And look, most of the things that I post are up immediately. That's just the truth of it. 9 out of 10 times I post something and it's up. Sometimes it's not. And especially with a long-term dividend portfolio, you really want to have some clarity. So I'm here to give you the level below us. I also think for PACOM that if we get back above basically where I got my first exposure, 170, 171, and we flip that level into support again, that there's a clear move back for PACOM to, at the very least, I would say the 250 mark. So while I am looking at the all-time high, bigger picture, a very good place to essentially take profit would be 250 for this. This is a previous support. We've broken down and we've never backtested it into resistance. So if I am having an allocation here at 170 and it comes back down all the way to 107, that's about the $63 moves lower. So if I get the same amount of shares, my average entry is going to be, let's say, 140. With the bigger picture idea that I am at some point going to sell these things, or at least to take some profit at 250, and then basically write the rest into the all-time high. So this is a very interesting company, massively flooded because CEO is apparently selling shares, but that is really not the truth. So I just want to defund this company a bit and put it on our radar again. And it's very important that you're not just interested when price is always going up and up and up and up. Typically, what happens, right, is people don't get interested when price comes down. But that's also the point. Opportunity does not feel like opportunity. So when things are squeezing into all-time highs and retail is FOMOing in, it feels like opportunity. But what is probably going to happen is that thing is going to crash back down. Something like this is starting to look very, very interesting to me. So I did want to cover that as well. And kind of also warranted that we're not kind of only going over SWBI. This is now coming to this level. This is very likely going to consolidate here a little bit. But I am putting this on my watch list to play in the days and weeks to come as well. This is also a very affordable thing. So nice to add to a dividend portfolio potentially for some, right? At least I'm also going to look at that, to add that to the same portfolio that to me also holds PACOM, for example. I see some more people have joined the chat in the Discord, and I also see that some more people are watching on Twitch and YouTube, so that's awesome. Side question, are dividend taxes the same for us as stocks? I'm very sorry, White Goodman, but I'm not going to answer any tax-related questions ever online. I'm not your tax advisor, and I don't know. That's the only thing I'll say about taxes. Good. So I wanted to go over PACOM and also about over SWBI, which has its earnings right now. And then we may have one or two more things that I do want to point you guys' attention to. One of those things is Aurora Cannabis, right? This is something that has been in a very, very steep downtrend for a very long time. However, I basically recently, yesterday, made a trade setup for this company. And this is also a company that had its earnings today. So if we go to the daily time frame here, you will see earnings was today. Now, the earnings for Aurora Cannabis are not happening now after hours, but that already basically happened. So I'm not really interested in the numbers here. However, I do want to emphasize that I have basically taken a position on this today in accordance with also the trade setup that Duck has posted in the $500 account challenge follow along thing, right? What I am looking at here for Aurora Cannabis is by no means a guarantee, but one of the things that we were looking at is coming back down to basically sweep this level, 544, which that is what we've done today. And just to kind of clear this up, while we're very close to the entry here, it makes sense to go over this. Just today, this hit basically an entry criterion. So you see 9:30 New York time, we nuked down and we nuked below 544, which was our level of interest here. And we closed below, and then another hour of closing below, and then another hour of closing below. And then all of a sudden, we got a candlestick almost up 4% that now closes back above 544. So this candlestick basically today activated our trading setup. And again, I'm here to tell you that maybe tomorrow it comes back to that entry. So for those who do want to follow along, it's possible to follow along. But essentially, our entry is an entry at 545, which is the 1 hour candlestick that closes back above 545. So that is just 1 cent higher, but that does meet the criteria of closing back above. And essentially, we're looking at something like this, where if at this point Aurora Cannabis rolls over and gets below 521, I'm out, because then at that point it might drop way down lower. However, right, something like this, where we have earnings, a big move one direction, another shakeout, and then over the next couple of days, we're basically grinding back up. That is what I hope is going to happen. That is also the main idea here. So there's a couple of things for Aurora Cannabis. Why I'm very interested is because previously, and also on higher time frames, we had high, low, lower high, and lower low. But recently, basically ever since March, there was some positive kind of cannabis related news. This also took out market structure. So this now has a higher high, and I'm interested in finding a higher low and then basically playing it back up all the way back to, for example, the high there, 1145, not in one trade, but that 1145 is something that I'm looking at. Again, like I said, not in one trade, but multiple trades to get us back there with a very tight risk. So get back below 521, I'm out, and I'm looking for a re-entry from lower down. But I did want to go over this as well, as it did hit the entry criteria that Duck and I have basically prepared for everybody yesterday. So it also has earnings today, so kind of fits the narrative of this after hours stream today, right? Let's see if there's any more activity in the chat. Let's see. So there was the tax question. Pookster, I'm indeed not in the United States, Porter. Yeah. All this tax related chat here in the chat, that's not going to be for me. Now, we went over SWBI, we went over PACOM, and I gave an update here over Aurora Cannabis, and that was really already the main point of today's after hours stream. I'm going to keep this relatively short, so we have around 10 more minutes to look at maybe one more thing, and then I'll basically jump off, because anyways, I am not trading after hours or pre-market. So a lot of people have the ability to do so with 24/7 trading, etc., on the stock market, but I always prefer to do my stock market business during regular trading hours, which means between 9:30 and 4 p.m. between 9:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. New York time, right? That is the best answer that you can give to such a question, Snowflake. I love that. Tax-related questions, you gotta hire a tax guy. We are not tax people here in Penny Boys, right? Good. So I'll already make some notes here. What we've done so far as the SWBI, interesting for a 4-hour candle close above 1751, and then essentially putting a long order at 1751 or looking at a support pickup around 1386 now. So SWBI we went over PACOM, and we went over ACB. those three things, to me, like I said, those were the main three tickers that I wanted to cover in today's after hours stream. But I will take a look at the chat, and I can look at maybe one more ticker. If anybody does have a ticker suggestion, I will take a look at it. But these three were the main reason of basically jumping on today's live stream here. Good. I'm also going to check the chat on YouTube. Latvian says to look at Ethereum USDT. I respect. I cannot deny that. So that's not going to be an equity, but look, we will do that. So Latvian suggests us to take a look at Ethereum, something completely different. Now I'm up for that. Let's see what I think about Ethereum. I'll give you two options here for Ethereum for everybody watching. First option is going to be very simple. Looking at 3,135 to basically do something like this. That's the play. 3,135, that is a level to look for support and for another higher low, where this is a low, this is a high, this becomes a higher low, and we're basically going into all-time highs. So my take on Ethereum, very simple, is that we are headed to all-time highs. Now, are we headed there next week, next month, in a day? I don't know, but ultimately, I do expect Ethereum to go back to the $4,877 mark, which is the all-time high, right? 3,135, excellent level to look for a pickup of support, and a very good kind of invalidation would be this low here. So just also for everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch and so on, I'll give a very, very, very simple trade setup. Realistically, something like this can work perfectly. Or, so that is, right now we're trading at 3,524. So I'm telling you guys, please do not be a crypto pleb, which means that you're scared if price comes down. A dump of around 11% into another higher low would be quite ideal here for Ethereum. The other thing that I will say is, of course, I'm not married. Like, we don't absolutely have to come back down there. It would be very nice if we could do something like this. But there's, of course, no guarantee. So I'm not just saying, oh, guys, you can set up shop at 3,135 and there's a guarantee that we come back there. There's no guarantee to anything here. But I would say that is a key level to look for a higher low. Now, if we don't do this, then basically getting it back above the 3,630 mark is an incredibly strong confirmation for Ethereum. And we really don't need to make this very complicated, right? We got this low, which is the top end of a daily fair value gap. And you can kind of see that that 3,630 level has acted as support here. And once again here. And more recently, and basically 10 days ago, we fell through that level. And ever since then, we've been touching 3,630 and we've been using that level as support. So looking for a break back above 3,630 and then finding a long entry at 3,630, also just basically targeting up to the previous high of this year and then the all-time high, right? So for Ethereum, my main play is very simple. You're going to flip 3,630 back into support and we're off. Or we have to come back down, for example, to 3,130 and flip that into support. So if I were to just put two numbers here for Ethereum, I will say $3,630 is key resistance and 3,130 is key support. So it's a $500 difference between where the key resistance and the key support is at for Ethereum. My mindset on Ethereum is bullish. I am looking very likely at going into the all-time high. Ethereum ETF is also coming. BlackRock is getting their hands all over this. And while, again, It's not the only crypto. It's not the biggest one. It is a very important one. It is a blue chip crypto alongside Bitcoin. And for anybody who has no exposure to Ethereum whatsoever, I would thank you, Latvian, for the question, because these two ways are good ways to still get on board, right? So just say, well, Ethereum was trading way lower last year. That is possible, but what will you say if next year it's trading at $5,000 to $10,000, for example, right? Then it would have still made sense to be interested around these current prices still. So I hope that makes sense for Ethereum as well. Very happy with the question. I'm happy to cover a crypto lastly. So we went over SWBI, PACOM, we went over ACB, and then Ethereum as well. With that being said, I am going to end. Thanks, Jay. Awesome, Latvian. Thank you so much for the question, man. Also, big shout out to you for holding it down in Titan Trading and catching the plays that are alerted there and showing off your profit. That is awesome and well deserved, man. Now, that being said, I will end the YouTube stream here. So let me end this. I will put this also in the past live streams